Pink lipstick kisses, political missions, parties and wishes. Girls are delicious, audacious ambitions, sexual emissions, ink print is vicious. Girls are delicious. On the loose, info magazine works the juice. Closer and closer, on the loose. Info magazine works the juice. Closer and closer.
LOTL is, well, it's almost like a religious publication, isn't it? Every month there's something in there for everybody, something in there that gives me some spiritual guidance about important things. Where to go Friday night, for example.
It's informative, it's entertaining, it provides opportunities for information and education and debate.
LOTL has been the publication that lesbians would know would only be dedicated to them.
LOTL's always been a really good mirror of what's happening in the lesbian community in Sydney and also worldwide.
Over the years it's been really informative about an important aspect of the work I do and the people I represent.
Yeah, I think it's a free publication, and for a freebie the quality is really good, especially now.
It's been there for 17 years and it has done so without missing a beat. Always there on the street every month, and that presence in itself, from a symbolic point of view, I think is a really important thing.
I would say that I see it a little bit like a lesbian dolly, a little bit like a kind of glossy magazine for lesbians.
No, I suppose if you had a lesbian airline, that'd be the best in-flight magazine you could get.
It's an absolute institution, and it's an institution that you could lock me up in any time. I'll be a part of it.
Yeah, I second that.
Lock us up.
Well said, mate.
Before LOTL, there was nothing much really for lesbians to find out. There was a lesbian network, which used to come out quarterly, but it was only available at venues where only lesbians could access it, so very limited distribution. I remember being a young dyke of 17, 18, and knowing there had to be gay bars out there, but I had to ring up Gayline to find out where they were. So yeah, it was a little bit hard to access the scene before LOTL.
20 years ago, the media, the gay media, was considered a male domain. Women hardly ever got a voice. Lesbians were not really mentioned. They were sort of a little bit left in the back blocks of, what was going on. And I think probably that's one of the reasons why LOTL started, is to give us that clear visibility and to show that we're out there, where we exist, we are an important force to be reckoned with.
People who are used to seeing their lives reflected on newsstands, right, have to really imagine a time when there is no reflection of who you are except negative ones. So, for instance, there's pathological reports, there's studies showing how homosexuals are emotionally, physically different and inferior. And then all of a sudden, in America, it was in 1947, one woman gets the idea that, gay people, queers, the third sex, as she uses the word, have a right to have a sense of self in public just like anyone else. And I'm going to create a journal, a magazine. And it was a magazine like you've never seen before. She typed it, hand-typed it, distributed free to friends, and friends would send it out to others. And in this, she makes the plea that someday her community will have access to public publications like any other. And she ties it to the acceptance of our right to exist. When we came out in the late 50s was our sense, in some ways, of shame. Our sense that we were always under surveillance. That's why you have metaphors of women in the shadows or, dark streets. And I think one of the elements that helped dispel that shame were publications like LOTL. It was a moment of public self-announcement, like in the States. The first, I think, comparative journal to LOTL would have been the latter. I really can't emphasize enough what it meant for women who loved and lived and longed to all of a sudden go to, even if it was the dirty book section or the pornographic section, and pick up a lesbian written publication and see a public image. In order for these to survive, you must have a community that can support them. So you see how it goes hand in hand? The more you have the publications, the more you have the community. The more you have the community, the more you have the publication.
The reason LOTL came about was there was just a huge need for it. It was 1989 and I was working as a volunteer counsellor at Gay and Lesbian Line, and Jazz, who I started LOTL with, was involved with Lesbian Network. And we realised just how hard it was for lesbians to find out what was on. I mean, it was hard for us to find out what was on. And so we just thought, well, why don't we just put out a magazine ourselves? It wasn't going to be anything much at first. I mean, the first issue was only 8 pages. It was actually only going to be 4 pages originally. And we thought, well, we could do this. We could just sell advertising to cover the printing costs and distribute it, around the inner city. And lesbians would at least be able to find out easily, what was on. That was the impetus for LOTL as a what's on. And then we had to think of a name for it. I just thought of Lesbians on the Loose. It was just, it was out and proud, it was fun, and that was it.
Jazz, Ishtar and Frances Rann decided that they would put together this publication. I and some other friends started working on the publication, and in the beginning we called ourselves the Cub Reporters, and we used to get around town in these sort of Humphrey Bogart hats with little press cards in the side of them, and I used to take the photographs with this really old camera that my father had since the war, I think. And we'd write articles and do reviews, and we thought we were so cool. And when I look back at them now, I just think, how could I ever have written anything like that? And half the photos were out of focus, but it was this amazing new publication that we'd never had before. So I don't think anyone worried too much then.
When I started working for LOTL, I was up in Mackay, and I got to know the girls very well, and so they said I could come down for my first Mardi Gras in 1994, so I was very excited. They said I could stay there, and when I got there, it was a very welcoming environment. Like I was a little bit of a hip girl in the middle of Sydney, and so then I was plonked in the middle of King's Cross. Like I had sort of visions of what it was looking like, because I knew Frances was producing it from home, so I had a sort of few ideas what it would look like, but it was just fantastic to actually see where LOTL was being produced.
Putting the publication together was as scientific as big sheets of paper, and then you'd cut everything out and paste it into its place, and there's 4 pages, and if that fits, then we know it's going to be all right, before it went off for desktop publishing. As editor of LOTL, Frances Rann was a tyrant. She worked us so hard. She was relentless, but all in a good cause.
I never imagined it growing as big as it did. If I had known that it was going to be the huge venture it was, I may not have started it, so I'm glad I didn't.
Look, LOTL's changed enormously in the time that I've been reading it, the last 9 years. I remember this, informative magazine, but it was a bit sort of bottom shelf, which quite appeals to me.
It was great when it finally got a coloured cover, and then as it progressed in its sophistication, moving to coloured insides and smooth paper that didn't come off on your fingers.
I like it. I mean, I know that some people like it to have that sort of grassroots, street press look about it. But I kind of like that it's a bit more slick looking and a bit more professional
looks
looking.
A lot smarter, I think,
compared to what it was. I think anything has to evolve anyway, and I think it's evolved quite well in that regard.
I guess the boots and the flatter look made it look more of a community publication, perhaps. It looks like something you should pay for now, and the fact that you don't is we're very lucky.
No, I don't. I wouldn't put LOTL in the glossy magazine category whatsoever. If you're looking at the whole genre of media publications, there's no way that that it steps up to the mark.
I see LOTL as a bit of a trendsetter. We have to also know that we're creating history as we're printing. So we like to pick up on styles and perhaps try and set a few. It's just part of the selection of content that's my job.
I would like LOTL, along with its pleasant appeals, to also push the borders of some of our issues. To not be afraid to break new ground.
We burn brightly today. We burn.
We believe in fresh blood. We were Mrs. and Mrs. LOTL. We were professional lesbians, and that can be very wearying, and I wanted to explore other parts of my life, and so did Francis. It was a very challenging job. It tied us to our home. It was 24/7, you know, so there was a lot of stress, and it was good to have done a good job and finished it and bowed out.
It's been going for 16 years now. It would be the longest lesbian title in Australia. There aren't many publications that get to be that old anyway, and I think that it's been strong, it's survived a lot. It will probably survive more into the future, it'll probably have other owners, and I'm really proud that we have created something that could last this long.
I became involved with LOTL when I was running my travel agency, Silkes Travel, and I was advertising in LOTL for 5 or 6 years. I had a good relationship with Francis as being a long-term advertiser. I was offered a magazine and I bought it.
Come on, please.
One of the problems of the word lesbian is that it is really overloaded with stereotype. And so it's important that there are different lesbian groups, institutions, you know, arts bodies, magazines, etc., that cater to different groups of people in the lesbian community.
You know, once upon a time people used to meet around the village well and as they were pulling the water out and slapping the clothes on the rocks, have a talk about the issues that affect us all as human beings, and we don't do that as much anymore. We rely much more on virtual communities, and I think LOTL plays a role as a sort of a village well, I guess.
Like with my girlfriend, she doesn't identify as a lesbian, which is not like she doesn't accept who she is or she doesn't like really love me or anything like that. She just, she's really, I can be honestly tell you, I mean, I've been with her for 4 years. She's really not a lesbian. And I think that maybe it's our age, or I don't know, maybe it's not so important any longer for us as people to have to label ourselves.
You shouldn't be there to be judged just because of who you sleep with. All lesbians aren't gorgeous. All lesbians aren't left wing, just like, you know, gay boys or straight people. You know, you can't judge someone by their sexuality.
We saw LOTL as being the journal of record for the lesbian community too. We'd actually go out and cover everything that, you know, that happened in the lesbian community. We left no stone unturned.
Yeah, we're not a journal of record at the end of the day. We're a monthly publication. So for a start, the deadline rules. If I try to run a breaking news story, it can be old news by the time it comes off the press.
How do you create a forum for debate and discussion and keep that going without creating division or having publications that are no longer newsworthy that you can't sell advertising in? Like, you have to balance all of those things.
Every time the magazine comes off the press, it is quite exciting and really memorable in itself.
One of the biggest stories that we ever did was the lesbian adoption story in 1993, the first lesbian couple to adopt a baby. And while that was a groundbreaking story in itself, what was fantastic about that is that Lesbians on the Loose had the scoop on the story. The Herald picked it up, and then the night the story came out, it was Lesbians on the Loose was on every national news bulletin, which means that lesbians who had never heard of the magazine all of a sudden had a lifeline into the magazine. So that was fantastic.
Probably my favourite cover was one that involved myself. It was 1994, and I was covering the Lesbian Confest in Brisbane, and a huge issue with lesbian, transgender, lesbian trannies there. They were conducting a workshop, and a lot of the separatist lesbians found out, and they drummed them out of the conference on the first day. It was very aggressive, and there was a photo of Martina playing at Wimbledon as well. It was like there was sort of like a slight wind fluffing her skirt up, so you got to see her knickers as well. So that was my favourite cover in 1994.
The toughest story that I personally wrote was exposing a lesbian paedophile, and it took a great deal of research. And originally there'd been a lot of sympathy for this school teacher who had been convicted of having underage sex. The woman she abused came to us and told us that the abuse began when she was aged 11, and that was such a horrifying moment for me. But in order to right what I had seen as a wrong in our community, I did take that coverage on and do it, and that was a really important and tough story.
Really, I think probably the biggest amount of work that I did with LOTL was originally with the Gay Games, because that was such a great time, and my girlfriend actually took a week off work as well, so she was like my assistant, and we had little press passes so we could go everywhere, and we just photographed everything we could, and it was, and they ended up doing a fantastic spread.
My most memorable would have to be the first time I interviewed Katie Lang. We had such a ball, she was such a flirt. I was single, so I didn't mind. But I spent 40 minutes with her in her hotel room, and we chatted about everything, and I just recently got a tattoo on my back, and so at the end of the interview she rubbed the healing cream into my tattoo and serenaded me in my ear while I was interviewing her, so that was unforgettable.
I would say 1995, when our friend Barbara Farrelly took control of the reins, and we'd been open at Paramount Restaurant for about a year and a half, and she wanted us to get involved.
Slapped us on the cover, she did.
Yeah.
Licking strawberries or something disgusting.
Chris was trying to suck a strawberry out of my mouth.
A bit lascivious, she was slurping.
Unsuccessfully, I got the strawberry. I won the strawberry and the girl.
I really liked it. No, it's not about me.
No, but it was a really good cover.
I was
Who
little.
took the pictures?
Amanda.
She
was great.
She took really cool pictures. They looked a bit cartoony, and you looked really cute, actually.
My favourite covers are every month. I never put out a cover where I go, wow, that was a dud. Every single month I can't wait for the magazine to come off the press because I can't wait to see the cover. Every month is my favourite.
Just like a butterfly, we are on the verge of something beautiful. Why do we disguise the very thing that makes us free? We keep moving in circles, pretending we've never been here, when you and I both know we're making the same mistakes over and over.
LOTL captures something for everybody. I think there's something for the older people, the butchers, the lipsticks, the, you know, one-armed, three eyes, like there's something in there for all of us.
You know, when I look back on our community and I see us ageing, and of course there's new young ones coming on as well, but I like to see a really broad variety of faces in LOTL.
You know, I find that LOTL does sort of weigh heavily on, I think, the older.
Don't point at me when you said that.
I'm not pointing at you, I'm just, you know, expressing with my hand, but the older generation of lesbians, and I don't really relate to that.
Sometimes there are things inside that I really dislike, but other times there are really interesting things. Yeah, and I'm a bit concerned about the balance between the articles and the photographs and the advertising. So I'm just not sure where that's headed either.
Lesbians on the Loose is like the opposite of lesbians in the closet, so I think it's an impact statement.
And I think to change any sort of culture, you have to be fairly shocking. I think that was fairly indicative of the times when LOTL first came out.
Women have called Lesbians on the Loose LOTL, you know, the short form, for quite some time. I personally think it's a bit of a shame because I love the outness of Lesbians on the Loose, and it's such a cute and quirky concept of lesbians out there on the loose. You know, it has so many connotations.
Now I think it can be LOTL, it can be cooler.
Because do you remember the word lesbian was shocking, and to see it in print, I mean,
it still is a little.
It was like, ooh, lesbian.
Yeah.
You know, it was one of those words.
An exciting, dirty little secret word.
That's right.
I like to see the proper L word, you know, Lesbian.
Yay!
Pink lipstick kisses, political missions, parties and wishes. Girls are delicious, audacious ambitions, sexual emissions, imprint is vicious. Girls are delicious. On the loose, info magazine works the juice. Closer and closer. On the loose, info magazine works the juice. Closer and closer, on the loose. Info magazine works the juice. Closer and closer, on the loose.
The future of LOTL, very exciting. I have seen in the last 1.5 to 2 years an enormous amount of growth within LOTL. So with that, knowing that we can do what we're doing, I really think that LOTL will go global.
The future for LOTL is to be a really nice, chunky, perfect bound national Australian lesbian magazine, and also possibly to be a North American magazine. I'm currently over in New York researching and gathering information for the development of an American version of LOTL.
This is where I live. Hopefully the future for LOTL is just more diversification, more education. I think they're doing the right thing. I think they just need to keep doing it and educate more people and be more in people's faces.
Wider circulation.
Wider circulation. And then the world.
The world, exactly.
The world!
Yes.
I think LOTL's here to stay. Hopefully it's strong. There'd be no reason why it wouldn't. I think it will change though, and it will reflect a changing world.
And I think the really important thing is that no one publication can speak for the whole history of a people in struggle, or can speak to the aesthetic that different members of a community bring out of their struggle. In the beginning, we sort of had no aesthetic. We just wanted to survive. And now we have kind of luxuries of saying, well, what's our best representation? And I think I would like to stay away from some of the more rigid lines about there's only one way to be a lesbian, and there's only one way to be political, and there's only one way to be a feminist. And really, LOTL has a niche. It has from what I've spoken with women, a very powerful presence in the world. And that I think, that's an accomplishment. It should be seen as an accomplishment. What we just have to ensure is that other voices and other senses of self have their version of LOTL in whatever way they want to create that.
I see the future for LOTL and probably more specifically for lesbians in general. And I'm pretty sure I'll get no argument with this. We are going to rule the world, and in fact, in some pockets we already do.
I'm in need of some literal, clitoral, animal, vegetable, or mineral. Well, it's not a rock and it's not invisible. It's not huge and it's not impossible to find if you're in the right mind for the slimline design. Well, I wish I could sign post-it clitoris, but I'm not the kind to bullshit, this.
I think of LOTL, the magazine, and whenever I hear the full name Lesbians on the Loose, it still makes me cringe a bit, and I still think, how could we ever have had that name for it?
Dropped your boyfriend, now you withdrew. Who? Barrymore, nice score. Yeah, I'm down under the hood, that's where it feels real good. Yeah, she's down under the hood, that's where it feels real good.
I think Lesbians on the Loose is a great title. It's sort of wild and challenging. And I think that's what lesbians like.
We gotta live it up for the Sheila, autonomy start shifting the sphere of our list.
To me, it's kind of a little bit of a riot girl feel, watch out, there's a lesbian on the loose, watch out, ah!
Like we was in your car, twisting your chair, steamy windows and the blast full of fresh air. Yeah, we come far. Get up and dance, to shake your booty to the bounce, push your pussy to pounce on what I'm about to announce. So yeah, no shame, girls, get off your gear. No pain, just let out your fear. I'll be swinging from the chandelier and every light saving.
I also look at the sort of the Star Observer and the other sort of gay and lesbian publications, but they seem to have a lot of dicks in them, and
twisting and turning in your peripheral vision, a little pouting and purring for the crime of our condition. Go by becoming liberal, lateral, shaking.
The visual I get is lesbian women with mohawks and tomahawks
running around on the loose.
On the loose.
Yeah, I'm down under the hood where it feels real good. Yeah, she's down